Hello and welcome to episode 282 of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
And I'm Bill. And I'll start us off with the Little League World Series because I've just really enjoyed it.
Go right ahead.
So I must be getting good at my predictions too, because I said Texas, Pennsylvania, and Hawaii were the three best teams. And Texas and Pennsylvania played again last night. And Pennsylvania lost 2 games, both of them to Texas. So Texas plays Tennessee tonight. Texas will beat Tennessee, and then Hawaii will obliterate Texas. Hawaii is just too good. And then on the other side, Chinese Taipei is undefeated, and Curacao just won the losers bracket. But Curaçao's got great pitching. I mean, really, really good pitching and enough hitting. Like, they beat Mexico 2-1. But they have great defense, they have great pitching. So I'm going to go the upset route and pick Curacao to upset Chinese Taipei, and I'm going to pick Hawaii to win the whole thing.
Okay.
I mean, Hawaii hit like 5 or 6 home runs the other night. I think Hawaii has 13 home runs, and all the other teams in the World Series, the other 19 teams, have 11.
Hey.
I mean, that's frightening. So, I mean, that's where I see that. But it's been a lot of fun to watch. I think you do a really good job with the broadcast. My heart goes out to the grounds crew because they've had rain delays every day for like 9 or 10 days in a row.
It is the rainy season.
It just rains and lightning. They got to pull the kids off the field when there's lightning. So, I mean, they've been struggling. So, we'll see. And then, Tim coaching is goofy, but I admire him for as much as he loves baseball. He loves baseball more than anybody I know.
Well, I think that's what you want, right?
Yeah, but I mean, he can get silly goofy, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But anyhow, that's my commentary on that.
We have some NBA news finally. Some
Yes,
good,
we do.
some bad, and some different. You want your bad first?
Yes. Yeah. Let's do bad first.
Okay. Chet Holmgren out for the year already.
Ligament damage in the foot, no broken bones, but as Jason and I said before the draft, as we really liked him as a player, but we had concerns when you get somebody that big, if anything happens to them physically. And we both talked about Greg Oden and Bill Walton and talked about feet.
Yeah.
And here you go. You got feet trying to block a LeBron James shot in a Pro-Am basketball tournament. And, I admire the guys for wanting to play because they love the game of basketball. But you let the guy score. You don't try and, stop him and take a risk. I just think it was a poor choice. And then it sounds like the venue had problems with condensation on the floor because of the humidity. But they said that didn't cause it to happen, but it sure didn't help.
No, I mean, when you watch the replay, like, it doesn't really look like anything happens. So you wonder if this is one of those stress that, it was going to happen, like when people tear their knee ligament, when they're running on the field. It's like, it may have been 3 episodes ago and it was just hanging on by a thread. So our interesting news, we had a Lakers trade, Ed.
Yeah, give me your take on that, because that's an interesting trade to me, just because of the dynamics between Pat Bev and Russ.
Yeah, well, I think they're grown men, and, whether or not Russ is there or not. It sounds like Russ might be headed to Indiana regardless for Buddy Hield and Miles Turner, and they're going to send a couple of picks at Russ, and then Russ will be probably out of the league for a year, if not longer. But you traded Horton Tucker, who you held on as like the greatest asset in the world for the last 3 seasons. You traded him and Stanley Johnson, and you got back Pat Bev from the Jazz, who just got him from the Timberwolves. As people have pointed out, Pat Bev played with Anthony Edwards. He played with James Harden. He's very good playing off the ball. He's going to be a tenacious defender. He's a pretty good spot-up three-point shoot, which the Lakers could definitely use. And he brings a tenacity and an attitude that maybe this Laker team kind of needs,
That's what I think. That's what I think they're getting. They're getting a fiery guy that hates to lose, won't stand for complacency, will call people out,
But
and and maybe he shocks them into playing better.
but on the court,
I like him as a player.
yeah, and on the court, he knows his place. Like he'll cut to the basket, he hits open threes, and he doesn't need the ball. Which when you're playing with whether you're playing with Russ and LeBron or just LeBron, those are important things. But as people pointed out, if you had just signed Alex Caruso 2 years ago, you would have had a younger Pat Bev who's better than Pat Bev, who was already on your team. But you wanted Horton Tucker and you wanted to bring in more clutch clients, and you are where you are right now. But yeah, then the rumor is that Russ will be traded to Indiana. The Lakers will get Buddy Hield, they'll get Miles Turner, and Indiana will get Russ and the 2027 and the 2029 first round picks. Probably at least one of those unprotected, if not both.
If you're Indiana, why do you do that trade?
Because you want the 2020. You don't like Miles Turner. You don't like Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield seems to bother people because he doesn't seem to be very popular with any of his teammates anywhere. And Miles Turner is just somewhat of a dinosaur. He doesn't really fit the modern NBA, but he's not really he's not a Joel Embiid either. I don't know what he is.
So what do the Lakers do with those two players?
Well, Buddy Hield's a big wing that can provide shooting and defense. He can spot up too. So now you got LeBron and AD, and then you got guys like Pat Bev and Buddy Hield, on the outside. Anthony Davis can play more of the four while Turner protects the rim, and hopefully you can keep Anthony Davis fresher by the time the playoffs come. Although with Anthony Davis, you never know when he's going to get hurt. If you're Indiana, you're getting rid of two guys you don't really want during your rebuild. You're getting 2 first-round picks. And I assume you're going to John Wall Russ and just be like, bro, stay home. Because I guess if you traded for him now, you could trade him again out at the trade deadline, right, in February?
Yep. So what are the 2 years in the draft picks?
2027 and 2029, long after LeBron, who just signed his $100 million extension, will be gone. Now, whether or not Bronny will be there, I have no idea. But, And again, that trade has not happened, in case anybody got confused when I was rambling. But that is the rumor. That this is part that this was part of the dominoes. Because when you got rid of Horton Tucker and Stanley Johnson, now all you have left to trade is Russ and the picks. You can't, Horton Tucker is no longer an asset you have to trade, even though I've never quite understood that one.
Okay. Then they talked a little conference realignment.
Oh, and we got one more ABA thing real quick. KD apparently is staying with Brooklyn. And so is Steve Nash, and so is that whole crew.
Yeah.
And NBA owner.
Social media's been pretty funny.
Yeah. And I assume
coach.
Yeah.
No. Fire the general manager. No. Trade me. No. And then, I guess I'm good with cash.
Yeah. Well, it also, I'm sure that NBA owners are high-fiving each other virtually over the phone constantly now with this last,
Yeah. I mean, it's the first time that ownership has stayed firm on anything for a while, right?
Yeah. But it should be noted.
On almost every confrontation like this.
But it should be noted that Toronto said, well, we want KD, but we're not giving you Scotty Barnes. Memphis said, we want KD, but we're not giving you Jaren Jackson Jr. as part of the trade. New Orleans said, we want KD, but we're not giving you Brandon Ingram as part of the trade. So, KD's trade value is not very high right now either.
And it's one of those things, you can't take a player that's so good, that's really good, and then give up everything you have that would make the team good with him to get him. You can't do that.
And you got a guy that, seemingly can't be happy. And, is he going to ask for a trade a year after you get him?
Yeah, so we'll have to see where this goes, but it's interesting.
Yeah. And as people have pointed out, the positive KD people have said, if somehow, and this seems very unlikely given everything we just described and watching the Nets the last 2 seasons, but if he was able to lead this team and win the finals this year, this would be his legacy defining. if he was able to rally the troops and be a leader and not just a good basketball player, and he was able to get Ben Simmons and Kyrie on the same page with Joe Harris and everybody else, and they won the chip.
This would be his team. This would be his team.
This would be his team. This would be shh to the haters for KD.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of NBA news, I guess.
All right. Well, here's my realignment stuff, and you love your conspiracy theories, so here you go.
Okay.
All right. So let's say if California State Regents tell UCLA they can't move, which they can do.
Okay.
Then UCLA and the Big Ten work out a deal where they'll take Cal and UCLA. Okay?
Okay.
And Cal fits all the academic requirements.
Oh, yeah. Cal's a really good school. Yeah.
Of the Big Ten. So Cal, on that thing, it's okay, right?
Oh, yeah.
So then Cal gets the cut, and they both, for the California Regents, it's a win-win, because those are two schools that have athletic deficits, and now that's not going to happen. So it makes them better fiscally, right?
Right.
At the same time, you have Oregon talking to the Pac-10. Talking to the Big Ten. And you might get some sweetheart help from Phil Knight. And maybe Oregon goes, so now all of a sudden they're an 18-team conference.
Which is just ridiculous.
And then if that happens, maybe Washington goes and Stanford goes, and now you have 20. Or after the Cal UCLA thing happens and Oregon goes, then the Big 12 comes in and scoops up Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado, just like they said, and then they take Washington and Stanford.
Huh.
And if they do that, then they have games in 3 time zones. Then they have the major media markets. So the Big 12 picks up Seattle, San Francisco, Denver, Phoenix, and Salt Lake City.
Ooh, that's nice.
Which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's very impressive.
That's my hoped-for conspiracy theory.
I like that.
Yeah, it's just a possibility. It makes business sense, if that's what you want to do. Now, what it doesn't do is doesn't have a home for Washington State or Oregon State. And I don't know what happens to them. Maybe they go in the WAC or the Big Sky or something. But,
yeah.
I don't think there's enough interest in Corvallis and Pullman
No.
to make them attractive to pick up somebody.
No, sadly not.
So that's my conspiracy theory.
I think it's a pretty good conspiracy theory. That almost seems too grounded in business sense and reality to be a conspiracy.
Yeah.
Well,
so now, is it NFL time?
It's NFL time.
All right.
Let's go NFC first.
NFC East?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think we have to say much about the Commanders, right?
No, the Commanders,
Carson Wentz.
Yep.
We just heard that Antonio Gibson, their most exciting player for the last couple of years after Terry McLaurin, is going to be their first-string kick returner. Because that coaching staff does not...
I got to say, I still love Carson Wentz for what he did for...
Brewster, yeah.
Your friend's girlfriend.
Yeah.
So I always have a warm spot for Carson Wentz for that, but I don't have a warm spot for the Commanders. I think they're last by a sizable margin. I just don't think there's just too much conflict there on and off the field for that team to perform. I just don't see it. No.
And the coaching staff seems to be very anti-some. Like I said, Antonio Gibson is just the most high-profile example, but is their guys versus the guys they have, and being stuck with guys they don't want this year. It seems like a disaster.
It just seems like they're like a leftover team. They're like the land of misfit toys.
Yeah. The only thing that's been good for them in the offseason is they re-signed Terry McLaurin to that 3-year deal, and he's a really good receiver. But,
yeah,
that's it.
He's the one toy you want to play with on the aisle.
Yeah.
All right, I probably have the Giants third.
I do too. But we both talked off air.
We talked off air, and and there's a chance the Giants could flip the Cowboys and be second.
Easily.
Yeah. I don't like the Cowboys where they are. We'll just talk about them both together.
Yeah.
I want to give the Giant coaching staff the benefit of the doubt.
Yes.
I want to give Saquon Barkley some optimism that he's going to stay healthy and he's going to play well.
I'm hoping. And I'm hoping also Kadarius Toney.
He's out on Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to say that he's a bust. But if he doesn't play well this year, I'm willing to say that. But, I mean, you give the guy a coach that has worked with quarterbacks and has done some things, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and if Kadarius Toney can stay healthy, because he had the 3 most exciting wide receiver games of anybody last year. It looks like Tyreek Hill, but he missed 7 games with injury, and he's injured in preseason. Yeah. But and I know obviously Thornton, who's their first round pick, Kid Thibodeau is also out.
Yeah, and he's out for about a month. It looks like.
Yeah, I think at least the first 4 weeks of the season. But now we go to Dallas, who is injury-riddled already.
And hurting on the offensive line and at the wide receiver spot.
And the offensive line has been their strength for like 3 or 4 decades. It's like the Steelers' wide receivers. So when you're hurt on your one really good thing, And like you said, CeeDee Lamb is the only really big, healthy threat at wide receiver.
Yeah, if you don't have anybody to pair with him, they'll just take him out of the game when it gets through game play.
Yeah, and obviously, selfishly, I hope Dustin Schultz from my fantasy team is the second target at tight end.
I like him. I think he is, he could have a huge year. And then I think Dak's going to spend a lot of time throwing to the tight end and the running backs.
Well, have you seen the fun NFL comparison that Dak Prescott supporters hate?
No.
It's a blind, it just shows the stats of 2 quarterbacks. And it shows their playoff record. And one is Kirk Cousins and one is Dak Prescott. And they're the same. And it's not to say that Kirk Cousins is better than Dak Prescott, but they have the same number of playoff wins, the same number of touchdowns, and about the same number of turnovers. So.
And you know what? I had Dak as my fantasy quarterback last year, and I was not a happy man.
No, last year was a really bad Cowboys year. Look, this one's going to be much better.
No. Now let's talk about the Eagles, because on paper, they look outstanding.
Yes.
And the biggest question mark is
Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts, the deal. Is he going to step up and have a great year and lead that team?
And again,
the team needs a quarterback.
Yeah.
They've got great receivers.
And like
great defense, great offensive line, great skill players. Good
coach, yeah. But he is also like my favorite Steeler quarterback of the last 40 years, Byron Leftwich. A leader of men, a great dude, but is he the quarterback that you need? A lot of question marks.
That's a good point. I mean, we just don't know.
Yeah. Jalen Hurts has all the intangibles as far as being, charismatic, likable, teammates love him, coaches love him, right attitude, but,
And what's the plan B behind Jalen Hurts?
Do they still have my boy Minshew?
I believe they do.
Well, that's your plan right there.
And I wouldn't be surprised if Minshew ends up on the field a lot.
Now, I think I'll just speak for what I think is your opinion as well as mine, is that while we think that even whether it's Hurts or Minshew or really anybody at quarterback, the Eagles are probably still the class of this division, but we don't see them being anything in the playoffs.
No.
I mean, one and done, if not just done, depending on the matchup.
Yeah, but I think this could be a good kickstart year.
It really could.
For something good, something even better next year.
Yes.
If they all play like we think they can play, and they stay healthy. And with the Eagles, that's always an issue too, being healthy.
It is. Well, it's exciting that we're going to talk about the AFC East next, and I'm not automatically putting the Patriots at 1.
No. No.
I guess in last place, it's pretty easy. It's the Jets, Jets, right?
Yeah. And you know what? I just think that's a star-crossed team. I mean, I just don't see I just don't see that quarterback making it. And I think that says a lot about your talent evaluation if you miss on this quarterback after you missed on Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
And you had and those were really high picks. A 3 and a 2, right?
Yeah.
Darnold was a 3 and this guy was a 2.
The 2, yeah. And here's the quote of the.
Says to me, the way you evaluate is way off.
And in the backhanded compliment, this is why you don't think the Jets are going to win this year. When the number 1 draft pick of the Jets, the wide receiver, was talking about the Joe Flacco, he was complimenting how Joe Flacco throws receiver-friendly footballs, which I think is a backwards compliment of saying Zach Wilson does not. And at this stage of his career, you shouldn't be complimenting Joe Flacco and being excited that he's throwing you passes if you're going to win football games.
No. If I got to depend on Joe Flacco, I mean, you talk about no mobility at all. I don't know. They better have a great offensive line if he's going to be the quarterback.
Yeah, but I think that says a lot about Zach Wilson when the receivers are specifically citing the new guy, the old guy, technically, throws receiver-friendly footballs. I think that's a shot across Zach Wilson's bow.
That's a shot across the bow, no doubt. All right, so they're firmly entrenched in our last place spot.
Yeah. I had the Patriots in 3rd place.
You have the Patriots next?
I do.
So you think they're going to step back a little bit?
I do. I don't really. I like their running backs. I still don't like any of their weapons on the outside. Nothing against Jacoby Brissett or any of the other Patriot receivers or the 25-year-old 4.3 speedster they drafted who didn't start for a college team. I think they're taking a step back.
Yeah. I could see that. I really could see that.
I think they're
I don't know if I'm ready to go there. I think I'm going to have them in my 2 spot.
Okay. So then you have my 2 and your 3, I'm assuming the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, I don't like Tua. And I think that's another team with a lot of evaluation issues and a lot of things to prove that I think they're going to fall short again.
It is crazy because, very recently, we went through an entire college season, where the draft talk was tank for Tua.
Yes.
That he was the most, Drew Brees, he was like Drew Brees with more mobility. He was a smart guy, quick release, very accurate. And we haven't seen a lot of those things so far.
No, and you know what I'm going to say, Jay? Here's what I think. I think when you're a quarterback at Alabama, you have such talent around you, right?
Oh, without question.
You have a great offensive line. You have phenomenal skill players. And you got a defense that's going to give you a short field a lot of times, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so I just don't think that you're as good when you're not playing with, you could argue that the talent he surrounds himself with there is not as good as talent he had at Alabama. Or he had more talent around him in Alabama than he does at the Dolphins.
Well, I think every year for the last 5 or 6 years, there's been 3 Alabama receivers drafted and 3 or 4 Alabama offensive linemen drafted.
And running backs. Yeah, everything. I mean, and I would argue that he's used to playing with better talent than he has. And he can't carry a team. And when you're the quarterback in Alabama, you don't have to carry a team.
No, that's an excellent point. I like the Dolphins, what they've done talent-wise. I think they have a lot. They're one of the fastest teams in the NFL.
Yeah, they are.
And I think the New England Patriots might be one of the slowest teams in the NFL.
Yeah,
so I think
you've got Tyreek Hill and Waddle, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot of speed.
Mike Gesicki. Yeah. Well, Gesicki is somewhat of a disappointment apparently through camp because, while he's good at doing certain things, he's only good at doing certain things, which is being a big slot receiver. Not exactly what you want from your tight end, ideally. But he's also very fast. The running backs are fast. And they have a nice defense.
And in my estimation, the Bills will clinch the division before the 1st of November.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
They're just so much better than everybody else in that division.
Well, the Bills, the Bills, I think, are the only team we think of this entire conversation today that is a Super Bowl contender, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they're the only ones.
Yeah. And they're, you know, if I could bet 3 teams, they'd be one of the 3 teams for sure.
They're the only team coming out of that division that's going to make playoffs.
Most likely, yes. And definitely the only one with a chance for the Super Bowl, without a doubt.
Yeah. I mean, they're better than everybody else.
And they're really, really good. And again, Buffalo's a tough place to play. And we already talked about how difficult the AFC West is going to be. The AFC East should be a cakewalk. And the AFC South isn't exactly a juggernaut producer. So, I mean, the Bills could easily also, like you said, they could be 3 weeks out and have home field advantage, technically, you know? Assuming some of those West teams split, you know? They could be sitting there looking at, home field advantage throughout. I mean, we're going to talk about another division next week. Obviously, we'll talk probably longer than we talk about any other divisions in the AFC North. But,
Right.
Right now, it looks like the Bills have maybe the easiest path to the playoffs and to home field advantage.
And that's going to be important because you'd be bringing possibly a team like the Chargers
Yeah.
to play in Buffalo in January, and that would be a significant advantage.
Huge advantage. Just monstrous.
Yeah. I mean, not a lot of difference between Kansas City and Buffalo in January. They're both cold places.
Yeah. But San Diego, big difference.
San Diego would be, LA, where the Chargers play. I mean, that could be a different thing. Be a real challenge for a team that plays in that environment to go to Buffalo.
Without question.
Yeah.
Well, let's transition to
It's fun.
entertainment because we both have a football-related entertainment story, right?
Yeah. I watched Hard Knocks, the Detroit Lions.
All
And
right.
I've watched Hard Knocks each of the last couple of years, but I've only watched like one episode, and I've given up on it because it seems too scripted to me. And I watched the Lions, and that one seems totally unscripted to me. It seems as natural of an environment as you can have, knowing there's a camera around, because they don't hold back. And I mean, they're open, they're critical, they cuss like sailors. I mean, and they don't hold back. I mean, they're cussing out a player, they're cussing out a player. It's just like, I don't care if there's a camera there or anything. I mean, it's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it, so I'm going to watch it again the next couple of weeks because I really have thought it's pretty good.
Well, I watched the Manti Te'o new Netflix special, which is 2 episodes, only 40 minutes each, so you're not too far a commitment, but talking about the entire fake girlfriend scandal and his pro career. And it was really, really good. And there's a lot of things that have come out, I think, just in the last few years as far as the way we treat many different issues, that I wonder how it would have been different for Manti Te'o if he had come out, coming out now as opposed to coming out then in the NFL draft.
Interesting thought.
Yeah. But you're going to learn, I think, more than you ever knew about everything that went down. And he seems very open book or very honest about the whole thing and timing and, when he knew things, when he didn't know things. And they interview the person who catfished him.
Yeah.
Who had like 5 players in his family playing the NFL. Himself, which is pretty crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah. Well, he's the cousin of Tui Soasopo, the Raiders quarterback. What was
his motivation for doing this?
He was a very confused young man. They talk a lot about the sort of Hawaiian religious culture and the way that works. Mm-hmm. And, he had been raised on a diet of football, and he obviously had he's become a trans person since the filming of this. And he sort of opened up his sexuality, things you couldn't really do in Hawaii, that you wouldn't along those lines.
Oh.
So I think a lot of it was that. And then, and he was using voice modulation. Like, they even had the FBI test it, and they're like, there's no way this is a man's voice. And, he did. When you see all the details, like, you feel for Manti Te'o, because there's a lot of stuff that happens where you're like, well, he did, for as much as he never met this person in real life, he ended up talking to people who knew her somehow. And she would put him on with other family members. So it was a pretty crazy thing. But the scam, it seemed like it was one of those situations where it just got out of, it just got out of hand. Like, he was just sort of testing what it would be like to be a woman. And, they just developed a relationship and,
You're not saying Teo is trans. You're
No.
saying the guy that scammed is trans.
The guy that scammed, yeah. Manti,
Okay.
is very, he uses the words, I'm incredibly heterosexual. So do with that what you will.
Yeah. And his NFL career is over, right?
It is. He had 3 years with the Chargers, who drafted him in the second round, and I think a year with the Saints.
Yeah.
But he talks about, like, they show a lot of the Notre Dame stuff too, and I know you're a big Notre Dame fan. But when he's doing the Notre Dame stuff, they're just talking about how instinctive he is and how the football field is the one place he feels at home. And then after this entire controversy went down, he said he spent, and I can relate to this too, just with the anxiety, like, you're constantly worried about screwing up, and you just can't operate that way. Like, he went from being, this explosive rocket on the field to somebody that's doubting his abilities, doubting who he is, doubting why he was there. And, and that's, I said, the mental health aspect for him. It seemed like he just never got a chance to,
Yeah.
address that.
Interesting. I'll have to tune into that. That sounds like it would be an interesting I don't know if it would be an uplifting show, but I think it would be kind of interesting now.
I don't think it's not
Seems like it
uplifting.
was so well thought out.
But I have like 3 or 4 entertainment moments, but I'm only going to give you one today, and I'll save the rest for next week, because I don't think I'll have anything else between now and then. But I watched the new Ron Howard Amazon movie called 13 Lives.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the kind of movie Ron Howard should direct. A feel-good, uplifting movie, but it was really well done. All this cave if in case you don't know, there's 13 Taiwanese soccer players that get trapped like miles inside of a cave during a monsoon. So they have to get divers from around the world to swim into the cave to try and rescue them.
Yeah.
And all the diving scenes are incredibly well done, very claustrophobic. And, it's a nice feel-good story about, the world coming together for a good cause.
Okay.
Yeah. And I do have 2 food moments before we take off, right? I don't know if you have.
Absolutely.
Okay, so...
And they're in Lafayette, Louisiana.
Yeah, we had to go to Lafayette for a medical purpose. And first we went to the Judas Inn, which has been around since 1947. So 70-something years. Their menu is 2 pages. And it's like the size of a small novel, so you don't get a whole lot. The one side is hamburger, double hamburger, cheeseburger, double cheeseburger. And then they also offer a grilled cheese and a steak sandwich. No French fries. They just have a bunch of chips you can get. The other side is all Cokes and beers. And the back is just very old. It looks very old inside. Tons of locals. Everything comes out wrapped in just like brown paper, your burgers. And it tastes like the kind of burger like your grandma would make in a kitchen on the stove.
Okay.
And, sometimes it's just cool to go to places with history. And like I said, the food was good. It was, you get like that nice...
Toasted bun or not toasted bun?
Toasted bun, melted American cheese, because I of course, got the double cheeseburger because, I did.
Sure.
And I did not get it this way, but the way that the Judas Inn traditionally treats your burger is pickles, shredded lettuce, and a mustard mayo combo is the traditional Judas burger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we talked about this offline, and we went to Andy's Custard, which was a cool, like, frozen custard place. But, as both Maria and I stated, and you and I talked about offline, like, once you've had frozen custard, it's very difficult.
Everything else.
It's hard to understand why there's so many ice cream places and not more frozen custard places. It's like, it's richer, it's creamier. It's got a nice
Great texture,
consistency.
great flavor.
Yeah.
Stays cold longer.
Yeah. It's everything you want in ice
All
cream.
these things. It's everything you would want. I know. And then, you go somewhere then that serves ice milk.
Yeah.
Like the Sonic or Dirt, and it just like, you question why you've been putting it in your mouth.
You do. And again, like it seems like it should be more frequent. I know Culver's is sort of expanding across the United States, and they have frozen custard, and you can get some through Goldbelly. But yeah, if you haven't had frozen custard, get frozen custard somewhere. Google it. There's probably a place in your town, and you'll thank us for it.
And right now, if there's a Culver's in your vicinity, you can go to Culver's and get a root beer shake made with frozen custard.
Okay,
And
there
I
you
got
go.
to tell you, a root beer shake, and if you think about it, all it is a mixed up root beer float. But it's with frozen custard and Culver's root beer, which is also really, really good. And I would tell you that is special.
There you go. But yeah, try frozen custard. Because for me, I remember as a child, we had Pop-Tarts as a child, right?
Right.
And then at some point, Mom brought home toaster strudel. And it just made the Pop-Tart taste like ash in my mouth. Because it was just...
Toaster strudel was better.
It's just far superior.
Better filling, better crust.
Yeah, it's got better everything. And it's like, well, why am I ever eating a Pop-Tart? Like, what the hell's happening here?
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited for our next football show because I have my fantasy draft tomorrow night, Jason. So I need you to send me your depth chart of people I should be looking at.
Okay.
So I have my fantasy draft tomorrow night, so I'll talk about that on the show. And then we have our NFC North and our AFC North. And in reality, those are two of my favorite divisions in football, year in, year out.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit, we obviously talk a lot of Steelers. We talked a little Lions today, but I mean, you're talking Brett Favre, you're talking the Minnesota Vikings. The Bears are a disaster, but, what are you going to do?
Talking about fun stuff.
Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're still to be signed, Lamar Jackson.
Crazy.
And who said that you got till the season starts to sign him.
And again, with all the new football deals coming out, to me, he's worth a lot more than Kyler Murray and a lot more than Deshaun Watson. So I don't know what the hesitation is if you're the Ravens.
Agreed.
He's gotten better every year. The team's won more every year. And he's a league MVP already. And he's the most dangerous runner in the NFL. That just seems like such a no-brainer. And that's as a Steeler fan. So I don't want them to re-sign him. I hope he goes to the NFC. But, just common sense.
Yeah.
Once again, thank everybody for listening. And we'll come back next week.
All right, everybody, have a good week.